Okay, so imagine you're a Ukrainian military commander in 2022. You have a target, you have the drones, and then a guy in California decides you don't get satellite coverage tonight.
Not a president, not a general, a CEO.
A CEO. So that actually happened. Elon Musk refused to activate Starlink over Crimea for a submarine drone attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet. And the reason that's not just a weird footnote is it reveals something that I think we've been slow to name out loud.
Which is that the infrastructure of modern warfare is now privately owned.
Right. And not just warfare, dissent, communication, the ability of like an Iranian protester to tell the world what's happening to them.
And the people who control that infrastructure, they're not elected. They're not subject to the same treaties or rules of engagement that states are.
They're just executives making calls.
Which, when you say it that way, sounds almost mundane. But it's genuinely a structural shift in how power works.
So today we're looking at what we're calling the new geopolitics of connectivity. Specifically, how LEO satellite networks and AI platforms have turned corporate decisions into geopolitical ones, and what that means for accountability.
Okay, so first, LEO, low Earth orbit. Because I think people hear satellite internet and imagine like the old slow stuff.
Right, the geostationary stuff that had, like half-second lag?
Yeah, geostationary satellites sit at around 36,000 kilometers up. Starlink operates at 550 kilometers. The physics difference is enormous.
How enormous?
So radio signal strength drops by the square of the distance. A cell tower is maybe 3 kilometers from you. A Starlink satellite is 550 kilometers up, nearly 200 times farther, and it's moving at 17,000 miles per hour.
Wait, so how does it maintain a stable connection at all?
This is the part that's genuinely wild. The terminal on the ground uses a phased array antenna. It's electronically steering itself, locking onto one satellite rising in the west, and then handing off to the next one in milliseconds before the first one sets. And the signal itself has to be dynamically warped to compensate for the Doppler shift from that speed. Engineers actually call it the Doppler scream.
The Doppler scream, okay.
And what this means militarily is you have reliable, low-latency communication that doesn't depend on any ground infrastructure. No towers to bomb, no cables to cut.
Which is exactly why Ukraine became so dependent on it after Russia hit the Viasat network at the very start of the invasion.
Right. And Poland alone supplied something like 19,500 terminals. The U.S. Defense Department is funding it. It is deeply woven into Ukrainian command and control, drone coordination, artillery strikes, troop movements.
So here's the thing that I keep coming back to, though. By 2023, Russian forces are buying contraband Starlink terminals on black markets, through Central Asia mostly, and using them for their own drone strikes.
Against Ukraine.
Against Ukraine, using the same network.
Right, and that's when SpaceX, in coordination with Ukraine and the Pentagon, implemented what they called a whitelist, February 2026. Only terminals registered through official Ukrainian channels could connect. Everything else, deactivated.
And the effect was?
Nearly 90% of Russian units relying on Starlink lost connectivity immediately.
That's a private company cutting off a military's communications.
In real time. And then they added geofencing. Terminals moving faster than 90 kilometers per hour get shut down, specifically to stop them being mounted on attack drones.
Okay, but hold on. What about Iran? Because that's a completely different use case.
Right. So Iran is the other side of this. Early 2026, mass protests. The regime executes a near total internet blackout. Connectivity drops to roughly 1% of normal levels. And the lifeline for dissidents is about 50,000 smuggled Starlink terminals.
So now the Iranian government is trying to knock those out.
GPS spoofing, RF jamming, because the terminal needs GPS coordinates to align with the satellite. Urban connection rates drop 80%, and Iran passes laws making possession of a Starlink terminal punishable by up to 10 years in prison, potentially death.
So SpaceX responds with a firmware update?
They push an over-the-air update that gives the terminal an alternative positioning system. It orients itself using signals from the Starlink satellites directly, bypassing GPS entirely, originally developed to counter Russian jamming in Ukraine.
And on the ground, people are literally digging pits?
The shovel solution. You put the terminal in a hole, surround it with sandbags or metal mesh. The jamming trucks are operating on the horizon, horizontal interference. The satellites are overhead. You just need to block the sides.
It's like the most lo-fi countermeasure to a high-tech attack.
And it works.
Looping back to what you said about accountability, though, the thing that gets me is the AI layer. Because it's not just satellites. There's the Meta-Manus situation.
Yeah. So Manus AI, founded in Beijing, advanced autonomous AI agent, genuinely impressive technology. The founders try to do what a lot of Chinese startups do: relocate to Singapore, restructure as a new company, try to access Western capital outside the geopolitical crossfire. The industry term is Singapore washing.
And it almost worked. Meta agrees to a $2 billion acquisition.
And then China's NDRC blocks it completely with a one-line directive. But the legal mechanism is what matters. They use this look-through approach. They say it doesn't matter where your holding company is registered. This technology was conceived in China, trained on Chinese resources, built by Chinese engineers. We retain jurisdiction.
So a new address doesn't launder your geopolitical origins.
Not anymore. And that, combined with the NeurIPS boycott, where China threatened to pull 12 to 15% of the conference's paper submissions over a sanctions compliance clause, and NeurIPS reversed course in 4 days.
4 days.
These aren't isolated incidents. They're a pattern of states asserting that technology has a nationality, even when the company tries to shed it.
So where does this leave us? Like, genuinely, what's the structural takeaway?
I think it's this. We built global digital infrastructure on the assumption that it was, neutral. That a satellite network was just a utility. That an AI startup was just a commercial product.
And it turns out those assumptions were always a fiction.
Every piece of that stack is now a geopolitical asset. And the people controlling the most critical parts of it are private executives who are, they're not ungoverned, but they're governed in really inconsistent ways.
And the accountability gap is real. Because when Elon Musk decides to turn off Starlink over Crimea, or turn it back on, or whitelist a military, there's no treaty that governs that. There's no democratic check.
And that's not a critique of any specific decision. Some of those decisions might be the right ones. But the question of who gets to make them and on what basis, that's genuinely unresolved.
And getting more urgent.
Rapidly.
That's it for today. I'm Nova.
And I'm Alex.
And this is Code and Cosmos.